Hello everyone, I'm Pete. I play a lot of video games from a lot of different genres. I'm not a particularly good player, but playing games is one of my favourite hobbies. One genre I usually stay away from is the MMORPG. I usually find the gameplay to be lacking, and the story takes a backseat in favour of this shallow gameplay loop, and, well, let's face it, the communities always end up to be inevitably toxic. But is that true? None of these opinions that I form mean MMOs can't be good. And so thanks to YouTubers like Josh Strive Hayes, who I've been binging recently, I'm now interested in finding one that suits me. So I set myself a little challenge, and that's to play as many as I can find on recommendation until I find one that fits. I'll be playing each one I try until I no longer feel like I'm enjoying myself or no longer excited to see what's next. And if that's because of a paywall or uninteresting mechanics, then so be it. Keep in mind that these are not reviews, they're just going to be my first impressions. I'm going to start with the popular titles and then move on based on suggestions. I've got a few in mind, but you're more than welcome to drop some in the comments for me. My first step into this experiment is a pretty obvious one. World of Warcraft has been the top of the MMO food chain since it released and has managed to withstand the test of time. Now, I played a little back in 2008 or 9. I got a character to about level 45 or so before eventually I just stopped. I don't really remember why. I played again in 2016 with some friends who were all veterans of the game, and they dragged me on a meaningless trip through endless dungeons to reach max level after they insisted that the best content was at the end of the game. This experience just left me wondering why I was doing what I was doing. I was processing vast amounts of on-screen information and struggling to read spell and ability descriptions in between being dragged about. None of this appealed to me, and it stopped me being able to develop any connection to the world or my character. But these experiences don't make the game bad. My tastes have changed over the last 14 years or so, and I'd be really surprised if the game hasn't too. So, I took some advice from one of the scumbags who dragged me through those dungeons. Yes, James, I'm talking about you. Some advice he should have given me before that adventure. So, I'm going to play at my own pace. So I installed the game, and I settled in for my new player experience. And I was a bit excited, actually. Now, back in 2008, I remember making an undead mage. I also remember the undead starting area being really quite fun. There was a giant cemetery, I think, with some nice backstory as to why I was undead and what my future held for this second life. I remember the gameplay feeling clunky, but not unenjoyable, and I was just, on the whole, immersed in the world, learning about my skills. Sadly, that is no longer the new player experience, it seems. No. I started on a boat! See, I knew the game had changed. Okay, I was disappointed that the game wasn't the area I remembered, but change isn't bad. There's a few lines about my character before I get given control. I signed up to help on a rescue expedition or something. Okay, no problem, maybe I'll find out about myself later. Surely WoW hasn't forgotten about the RPG part of its title. Or has it? A basic tutorial follows, casting my spells, or spell, on a training dummy before doing the same thing on what's basically just an animated training dummy, who teaches me that looking at my opponent is important. Thanks, animated training dummy! Then the captain gets worried about the rain. A big wave hits the ship and we're all washed up on a big island. This is a very jarring change. It feels like a lazy transition, and immediately sets up for a story that further prevents me from learning about my character. So, as far as I'm aware, I just am. Okay, that's fine, I'll accept that for now. And here we are in what I will later discover is called Exile's Reach. This is World of Warcraft's new generic tutorial area. At this point, I'm assuming it's just for the Horde, since the NPCs and quest givers won't shut up about the mighty Horde. Stop shouting for the Horde! As a new player, I'm still not 100% sure what this means, as this one-line description in the opening cinematic didn't really help. My first quest, and we're opening with a slight variation from what I was expecting. I'm tasked with retrieving 6 first aid kits that were stolen by the Murlocs that populate the beach where we landed. As it happens, they are 100% guaranteed to drop when I kill one, and so the quest is actually just kill 6 Murlocs. But that's okay, let's put my spells to the test. It's press 1, wait, press 1, wait, press 1. It's early game, I understand. I appreciate not having too many things to keep an eye on at once for now. The auto attack seems mostly useless, but I'm a mage, so I can forgive that. I'll give it some time before I judge it fully. At this point I find some new equipment and a nice little tooltip shows me how to equip it. After returning the first aid kits, I must use them to revive some crew members from the shipwreck. I was looking for the kits in my inventory, but they're actually just a floaty icon near the minimap. Okay then. The angry orc lady tells me we need to look for more survivors, so off we go inland. The warlord, Breaker, whose name I had to double check while I was writing this because she's not memorable, is apparently overcome with emotion when she recognises the form of a Wansa lying in the sand, and I don't know who or what Wansa is, or if I should be relieved to see her. It turns out she just had a lie down next to a campfire because she was hungry. Me too, Wansa. Then we get what looks like a hunting tutorial. Apparently I can get raw meat from animals and cook it. It's an out of combat healing item I learned from the description. After this there's another combat tutorial. Apparently the next enemies are a real threat and I need to be ready. Breaker explains that I need to use my spells correctly in order to achieve this task. So we get in position and I'm told I need to use my Frostbolt to slow down her advance, then use Fire Blast to inflict damage when she's close. This isn't much more interesting than just hitting one and repeat. Actually, at this point I'd like to address something. Most people I know that play this game insist that the end game is what it's all about. I'm told that the combat changes, that it's more engaging and fluid, and it's not boring at all. It's all about maximising damage output and cooldowns and durability. Okay, that's cool. But why do I have to play like this now? For the purposes of this tutorial, I have to cast Fire Blast when Breaker gets near. The tooltip changes at the bottom of the screen to indicate when I'm supposed to do this, but I cast it myself when I think she's close. The game doesn't count this as correct for the tutorial, so I have to wait 12 seconds for the cooldown before I can cast it again, and the game accepts that I've done it correctly 1 out of 3 times. Then Breaker slaps me 50 yards away and we repeat. If this game is about its good use of abilities, then I think that needs to be represented now. I've already learned how to press my buttons, so I feel I could manage some kind of combo. I've been given one spell that makes me wait a second before manually casting again, and it feels like I'm just helplessly watching the enemy advance more slowly than it would have otherwise. I don't have any other reliable damage output, and my second spell, the one I'm told is perfect for close range, is a single target, long cooldown one. I'm sure this will balance out later, but at this point I feel like Frostbolt should be the long cooldown one with a long slow time, and I should have had 1 or 2 weaker instant cast low cooldown spells that I can throw while they advance. Maybe my opinion sucks, but I feel like that would be more interesting, and better training for what's coming later. After this little tutorial, I take an opportunity to explore a little. I'm very aware that I'm still in a tutorial, but that doesn't mean I don't want to look around the world. I can see a treasure chest icon on the minimap, and I want it. On my way over, I spy a giant walking on the sand in the distance. His name is Green and the cursor changes to a speech bubble when I hover over him. This informs me that he's a friendly NPC. This is cool! I make my way over some broken ship parts and get onto his little corner of the island and speak to him. He is huge. The sense of scale here is impressive, and it makes me excited for the size of enemies I may encounter in the future. Turns out he doesn't want to fight, he just wants to throw things. I can already see where this is going, so I select no, please don't throw me, Jorkar. I want to explore. Apparently it wasn't really a choice, and he picks me up and hurls me back to the campfire anyway. What purpose does this serve? Is it really important to have this here? There's no reward for exploring this. I press on and find Breaker with some of the crew waiting outside the Quillboar camp. I accept more Kill X quests, one being a named enemy, and set about using my 2 spells in the order I was trained to. It is thrilling. The Quillboar have some dialogue when they attack or die, talking about how the clan will live on. This led me to believe there was a story element here. There was not. I'm also noticing my mana bar is hardly moving when I cast my spells. One Frostbolt takes enough time to cast for the bar to refill, so wondering why this costs mana at all. I kill a big ogre marked as a star on the minimap. I assumed he was a mini-boss or something, but he was never mentioned. He didn't have a special name and there was no significant reward, so I guess I'm just an ogre slayer now. I find the head Quillboar from a quest to rescue a goblin that I didn't know but apparently is important, and then we escape through the opposite end of the camp, and somehow everyone is on the other side waiting for us. Maybe I'm missing something, but at this point I feel really disengaged from the world. I don't feel like it matters whether or not I'm here, because I don't know why I'm here. Why did I sign up for this mission? Where do I come from? What's my motive? If I'm supposed to make that stuff up for myself, that's fine, but I'm going to need more freedom than this really lackluster bit of storytelling. I get some more equipment and the handy tooltip informs me. I equip it, but the tooltip doesn't seem to know. I equipped the old item, the tooltip seems to know that it was the old one, it tells me to equip the new one, then it tells me the item has been equipped. I close the menu and the tooltip insists I have a new item to equip, and it's now that I notice that there is no way to dismiss the tooltip. So I guess for now I'll continue and pay attention to what I receive, or I'll miss it, because I'm constantly going to be told I have new equipment. Overall opinion so far, I'm underwhelmed, but I'm not put off. I'm trying to enjoy this game. I want to play it. So it turns out the goblin we rescued was also really important. He's some kind of technician or inventor. He's got a plan to help us scout this huge swarm of undead that's apparently a thing now. He summons a tiny helicopter, makes it really big, shrinks it a little, then has us hang limply from a rope while it glides over the field to get a better look of what's going on. Nothing's going on. Everyone is stood perfectly still. Apparently there's a ritual of some sort. Someone's captured down there. Oh, it just so happens to be Breaker's daughter. I didn't know she was on this trip with us either. And with the warlord's daughter in mortal peril, she sends me, the nameless recruit, to test the goblin's weird plan of making a giant boar to save her. Because of course. As it happens, he can't make the boar giant, but he can make his enlargenator become a powerful back-mounted turret of electric death. So we go ahead with that plan instead. This sees me reattached to the mini helicopter thing and flown back over the battlefield to rain enormous amounts of electric death on swarms of already dead but still killable. This will be a meaningless mechanic intended for spectacle, I assume, but since we never attempted to fight the undead, and they don't move or react to anything, it just became a point and click exercise. I'm then unceremoniously dropped from the sky and joined by Breaker to kill the ogre that has her daughter trapped with magical energy. Then there's an emotional reunion, during which Breaker makes clear that the Horde is important. Nothing is more important than the Horde. Oh, and now I notice that the lip sync is something from an early PS2 game. Now the big reveal, I guess, of the tutorial plot. The ogres are conducting a ritual to raise a dragon. How generic. I feel very aware that I'm just a soldier for the almighty Horde, which is fine, but I still don't have a personal stake in these events. Other than receiving payment from quests, I was never introduced to these characters. I don't feel any connection to them or their stories. What am I doing and why? Apparently there are other rituals involving other important people that I don't know. Of course, as a random soldier, I will be the hero here, because now I have 5 spells, so those enemies better be careful, or I'll conjure enough refreshments to make them need a long nap after eating. I get a small tutorial on how to buy and sell things, because no expedition party would be complete without someone to profit from the other members. Now I get 2 quest markers, pick one at random, and get shoved into a cave full of spiders. There are several trapped undead in cocoons that I bravely rescue, and at the bottom of the pit I find another ritual taking place. I kill the zombie mage, which makes me question my own place in this story as a zombie mage, and the next important powerful character, a druid, reveals themselves to me. I don't know who she is or why she's important, but she transforms into a stag and lets me ride her out of here because the mage made the cave blow up before she died. This is also, I think, my first experience with a mount. After what feels like a very unthreatening light show while being carried gracefully out of the cave, the super important and powerful druid that I've forgotten the name of already is united with the other important powerful people, and once again I'm the only one taking action. I obediently follow the yellow exclamation mark and I'm pointed to a Happy Roost, where apparently the exact same scenario is playing out that we just experienced but with different enemies. On the way there, I help a light demon or something who rewards me with faster feet for 10 minutes, and so far this has been the single most useful and interesting thing I've received, and I would like this more often. At the Happy Roost, I accept more Kill X quests and set about murdering and burning. I find another ogre marked as a star, kill him because I can, and then find our next rescue target. It's another undead mage, but a friendly one this time. There doesn't seem to be anyone holding him, and he just needs me to defeat the harpies while he breaks out. So I fight a couple of waves, then some of the actual heroes show up to start pulling the weight, and then an enormous bird shows up. I almost die in this fight. I have to move about and use all my spells. I confuse myself a few times by blinking forward and not being prepared to readjust the camera, but eventually I take it down. Something I didn't try, but also haven't had explained to me, is if I can move while casting. If not, then there's very little I could do to avoid damage whilst dealing damage, which kinda sucks as a playstyle. Then the birdie dies, the zombie mage is free, and we're all headed back to camp with our spirits raised or something, I don't know. I'm still not being given a reason to care. Breaker seems grateful, I think. The mage wants to have a word with me about being a mage. He says I need to learn more powerful spells and that he'll teach me. Cool! Oh, but he dropped his spellbook in a lake and I have to go get it. I don't know what the point of this is, except either extending playtime by a few minutes or demonstrating swimming. Apparently he'd get it himself, but part of being a good mage is knowing when to delegate. Maybe I'll unlock the delegate skill later on. I get the book and I'm treated to a polymorph tutorial. I can now turn enemies into sheep. Nice! Oh, and the NPC dialogue here is really dumb, and I think it's an attempt at comic relief, but it's just rubbish. Now the band is back together, and all the familiar faces, all the people we've come to know and love over the years, like Breaker, her daughter, the druid person, the goblin weirdo, the zombie guy, all the big names. It turns out when you put them together, they all have the resources to save the last member of the crew. Who'd have thought it? So we go to the ogre stronghold, and on the way I stumble across a quest-giving sign. Apparently it's the first group quest. Gotta kill a big bear that's really tough or something. Someone's already fighting it, so I accept the quest, fire a frostbolt at it, and I get credit for completion. Then I'm free to find the treasure in the bear's cave, that he neatly keeps in a polished treasure chest. Thanks, bear. In the cave there is an enormous rib cage. Like, this thing is huge. Like, the thing that this belonged to would never fit in here. This is the first piece of environment that actually interested me. I started asking myself questions. Did the mountain form around the giant? Was the giant trapped here? Was it born in the cave and grew too large to leave? And then I noticed that this environment design for the whole tutorial, whilst it's not offensive, it's just plain boring. Everything from the characters to the island itself is not important. It's not memorable. I don't feel like I'm having a wow experience. And I don't mean wow as in World of Warcraft. I mean wow as in making me say wow. The developers seem to know this island will have no effect on the story later on, so they've made no effort to engage me as a player. I'm supposed to be prepared for hundreds of hours of adventuring, but why? For the thrilling gameplay? For the community spirit? I want to enjoy this game, but you are actively setting up to not let me enjoy it. Oh, and on the way back the bear respawns and I have to run away. So the plan to infiltrate the stronghold is to play magical dress up and walk past the guards. The zombie mage and druid combine the power to turn me into an ogre. And we just walk in. I'm told to use a wave animation at the cook, who tells me to take the prisoners to the back and leave them there to be prepared to eat or something. I get there and we find our last companion. Now, do you remember the all-important warlord we were introduced to and saw how mighty and honourable he is? No? Me neither. But here he is, Mulgrim Thunderwalker, the man himself, I think. He's held captive by wardstones, and it's up to this nobody mage to do something about it, while all the other people with actual power stand around gawking at the friend. This boils down to more kill X, collect Y, interact with Z quests. Now, the ogres for the kill X quests don't respawn very fast, and there's not actually that many of them, meaning faster players are going around killing them, and I'm just running in circles waiting for more. Oh, and the ogres that carry the wardstones don't count as ogres for the kill ogre quest, so I have to spend even more time hunting them down. I turn in the quests and Thunderwalker is free, and then he brags that the ogres must have heard about his phenomenal strength because they use such powerful magic to hold him. I hate to break it to you, Mully, but I'm a nobody and I manage just fine. Then he tells me I have to go on without him to stop the dragon raising ritual, which has already started because all of my actions have been meaningless in freeing the ship's crew because the ogres already had everything they needed to proceed, so the very fact that they went through the trouble of capturing everyone instead of just guarding the gate to the stronghold makes no sense. Also, he needs a break because the magic was very powerful and wore him out. Are you a legendary hero or are you just full of crap, Mulgrim? The next step requires you to use the dungeon finder. Oh no, here it is. Here's the part where I'll be lumped in with some veteran players leveling alternate characters and I'll get yelled at because I don't know what I'm doing in the tutorial. I took a break here, I logged out and I spent the evening watching videos and playing other games. You see, in the little time I've actually spent in MMOs, I've always come across the inevitable forced interaction sections, where you have to add a friend or do a party quest, and 9 times out of 10, it will ruin my experience. Even if I was currently enjoying the experience, all because someone is not patient enough to issue a little bit of guidance and instruction to newer players, which is obviously the point of these quests. So it's 24 hours later and I feel like I'm ready for a go at this. I hit the dungeon finder and a queue for the dungeon and I brace myself. The queue pops quickly and I'm told my role is damage and off we go. Now to my surprise, I spawn in with the characters I met, not any other players. This is perfect, this is good. The game actually has an AI populated dungeon for your first time, which introduces, if only briefly, the roles of tank, healer and damage, and it lets me progress at a reasonable pace. The art design in here is pretty bland, I can't help but notice. I feel like everything around me has been made obnoxiously sized by shrinking the character models, and I assume it's an effort to create an intimidating scale comparison. It didn't work, it just made me very aware that I'd been shrunk. We get to the top of the tower and we fight a mage who is finishing the dragon raising ritual. When he loses a chunk of health, he sacrifices himself to complete the ritual and the dragon reanimates. The dragon, when raised, yells at the dead mage because he didn't provide enough power, and the real boss fight begins. It's an okay fight. I never really felt in any danger, but it did teach me to watch for the telegraphed attacks and position properly, and you know, not draw aggro, things like that. It was okay. It was a decent enough fight. I was happier doing it with the AI companions than I would have been doing it with players. As a finale, it was kind of interesting, if only because everything else had been so bland leading up to it. With the dragon dead, we exit the dungeon and find that Horde reinforcements have shown up to rescue both our group and the group we were sent to rescue. Everyone shouts, "For the Horde!" a few more times. Why do they shout it so much? Is it to make up for lack of personality? I try and speak to the characters, but most of them just have a generic greeting line and no text. This is just another reason I can't connect with any of them. This whole section has lacked depth, and if it's to introduce me to a whole world, then it's going to be a boring one if it's based on this. I'm told to get on a flying monster of some kind, and we fly away. The crew exchange a few words that are supposed to be profound, I guess, but it means nothing. A gunship flies into view over a line of fleeing ogres. We're told that the ogres should hide, but the gunship never fires, and this is a wasted opportunity for an actual spectacle. A loading screen and kapow! I'm in Orgrimmar. A short video tells me that this is a or the capital city of the Horde, don't know which. I get told that my particular designation of undead is Forsaken, but I am lacking context here. I don't know what that means in relation to anything, but I suppose it's nice to have a name. Breaker is in front of me riding some kind of pig, and she tells me she needs to report what happened to someone important, and then informs me that I should find that stupid goblin I met and get him to show me around. Well, that was my experience with the Horde tutorial. Let's see what happens if I go Alliance. Maybe I'll be able to connect with them characters a bit more and have a nice story and... oh, I see. Yep. No, yeah, it's the same. They've cut and pasted the tutorial, but with Alliance characters. Basically, they removed all the personality that the opening sequences ever had. Okay, this tutorial has been all gameplay and no story. The problem I've got here is that both are so lacking in depth and engagement that I feel absolutely zero desire to continue playing. I've had the good fortune to speak to some friends about the state of the opening and I'm told that I should play a bit more before making a judgment, and I will, but this doesn't change the fact that World of Warcraft is actively discouraged players from playing it. There's nothing in this opening hour that leads me to believe the game is worth my time, let alone a monthly subscription fee. Sort it out, Blizzard, this is atrocious. You can join me next time when I'll venture past this dire tutorial and hopefully start enjoying myself. I plan on stepping into more MMOs in the future, so if you want to join me then consider hitting subscribe and please recommend an MMO for me to try. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.